Hi, friends. Welcome to another episode of the Spiritual Sisters podcast. Happy almost May. It's Gabby.
Hi, guy. Oh, she's Gabby. Who's this
She's
bitch?
Gabby today. Well,
She's Gabby.
we're with our good friend.
We have our favorite intuitive therapist, Annamarie Green, back. Hello.
Hi, guys. I'm so excited. I'm honored that you're going by Gabby. I am honored.
Real ones know.
You're right.
And we're having Annamarie back because May is Mental Health Awareness. And we wanted to kick that off, but we also decided mental health awareness is every month. It's every day. So keep your mind on your mental health.
Prioritize it, guys.
Also,
Yes.
This is, if you're watching on YouTube, friends, Nichole has stripper hair now. What's your stripper name?
I don't know.
Oh, we need to come up with one.
Yeah,
I love it. It looks very like shiny,
Sensual,
and
huh?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I'm loving it.
She has the titties to go with it too, so we love it.
Trying to cover them.
I don't.
I'm repping my like mother like murder merch too.
Oh, fun.
Nice.
I actually
super
really
cute.
like that.
It's super cute. It's not for you though because it says mom on there, so you
Not
can't
a
wear
mom,
it.
so yeah. But Annamarie can.
Yeah, Annamarie
right.
can.
You both can. Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
so it's been a minute since we've had Annamarie here, and since we've had you here, we switched things up just a little bit. So, Gabs, go ahead.
She's setting me up to see if I remembered all the questions I already know.
She doesn't.
I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try my best.
Actually, yeah, I'm going to test you. Go ahead. I'm going to let
See,
you
I know.
ask
So
all
I knew what
five
she
of
was
them.
doing.
Well, I wasn't,
I knew what she was
but
doing.
I am now.
That's not what your facial expression said. Anyways, Annamarie, my dear,
Yes.
what is your big three? Are your big three in astrology?
Leo Sun, Cancer Moon, Gemini Rising.
And Jupiter is about to
Yes.
cross that rising sign, so this is a glow up year. I'm so excited for you.
Yes, I am also very excited. It has been the Saturn return. I've
It's
been
rough.
in the trenches. Okay. But we are on the other end of it. Okay.
Mhm.
At least I feel that I am, even though I think I have like technically like a year or so left, or a year or two left. But
Maybe the worst
yes.
is behind
You're
you.
on the
though.
downhill.
Yeah.
Downhill.
Yeah.
Downhill slope. Okay.
Absolutely.
What are your big three in astrology?
She just asked
The-
you. You just
Oh,
asked
sorry.
her that.
Human design.
It's
Cut that
okay,
out.
it's okay.
Cut that out. Edit it.
Nope, I'm going to leave that in there.
Okay. So in human design, I am a 6/2 sacral generator, non-emotional.
Mm.
So that means I take everyone else's emotions and I maximize, like I feel them times 10, which is very helpful for me.
What's the 6-2 life like? Because Nichole and I are 4/6s, so we have
Okay.
6s in the profile.
So 6/2, I think it's called like the wise teacher, wise sage, or something like that. Essentially, I live my first 30 years as a 3, and which is treacherous. I mean, it's good. It's fine. It's, but I essentially it's like a lot of like you're focused on the external, your trial and error, figuring things out. 6s ask a lot of why, which makes sense. I learned that the other day and I was like, oh yeah, I literally ask why for everything. But I also am entering into, so there's 3 phases for the 6s. There's the external, and then there's kind of like they say on the roof. So you're like kind of taking a step back, kind of going into hermit a little bit. And I have a 2 in my profile. So I do really value my time alone to be able to create my genius. But I definitely feel like I have that pull towards teaching, towards becoming like a master in my industry. And it has been great and it's great fun. But I definitely think, I'm excited to enter into my 30s because it's kind of this mindset of like the best is yet to come. Like it keeps getting better as I get older. So that is a little bit of like what it's like for me. I don't know if it's that way for you guys with your 6 lines.
Yeah, it feels that way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about, okay. Yeah, Nichole agrees too. Okay, so if you could go to any concert of an artist dead or alive, which would it be?
Oh God. Oh geez, Louise. Okay. So this is probably like, it's not lame, but so I'm a really big country fan amongst all other genres and things like that. So I would probably choose Jordan. I'm just going to say Jordan Davis because I was literally talking about him the other day and how I wanted to go to a concert of his. You probably don't know him.
I don't. No.
That's okay. He sings very like heartfelt, like lovey songs, and I just love his voice, and I love how lovey his songs are. So it's just like a vibe. I'm not a big concert goer anymore because I find a lot of them to be overwhelming. But I've seen Beyonce, I've seen the Jonas Brothers, so I feel like I don't have a lot of people left on my list that I'm like gotta see them. You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, Jordan Davis, because I just love his voice and his music. So
I know you posted on your personal that you went to the Beyonce concert, but you didn't really share too much about it. So I feel like that's an off recording kind of conversation.
Yeah. It was great. It was great fun, but it was a lot energetically speaking.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure. Okay. So if you could read for anyone, dead or alive, who would it be?
Oh my God. Oh, so many people. I would love to read for, oh goodness. Do I want to choose the trauma route, or do I want to choose who would just be fun to read? Okay. I'm going to say Taylor Swift. I don't particularly know why, but she's just like immediately came to mind. I think because I think I could really like help her mental health wise. Like,
really?
not that I think that she has bad mental health, but I think that it would just help her like navigate the different waves that she might feel. I don't know. I also think it would be fun. But trauma route, like literally anybody in politics, literally just anyone. I'm just like, let me just read for you so we can sort through why you've made some of the choices that you've made.
Can you go back and read for JFK?
That would be fun. That would be fun. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah, because I would just love, not even as a curiosity thing, but just like, I know that y'all have experienced something that has made you cold, or that has made you like not care the way that maybe you originally did when you got into politics. And like, let's just go back. Let's process that. Let's see what needs to be done. Yeah, so really any politician, to be honest.
I have an astro fact about politicians that I'll save for my final, actually second to final question, because bonus, she remembers them all. Which podcasts are you vibing to right now and listening? Which are your favorite?
Oh, my favorites.
We like to expand.
Yeah. So, I mean, you guys are like one of the tops that I listen to.
Aww,
and then, oh God, who was I listening to the other day? I listened to Nikki Novo's like business podcast because I like to learn. Oh goodness. What other ones? Can I look at my podcast like list real quick? I don't
have
remember
40
all
on
the
there
names.
like me.
I do. Yeah. I really, really do. So it's like overwhelmed. Like I don't remember. Let's see, which one was I just listening to the other day that I was like obsessed with, low key. Oh, Black Girl Flow podcast. It just is a really good balance of like self-help and a little bit, it's not a lot of woo, but it's really good like self-help stuff. And I always find it interesting to learn about like what people are doing on their journeys, like with mental health, and how other people outside of the therapy realm are approaching it and talking about things. So I use a lot of, you guys are like one of my entertainment ones as well as education, but I have a lot of educational ones where I'm like learning. I don't have a lot where I'm just like for funsies. I'm
Funsy.
I have a hard time turning off my learning brain. So,
well, we're honored. Thank you. Okay.
What's
final
your
question?
No, that's all the questions.
Well, I know, but I was going to throw in another one, which you already know. Okay. See, she remembered all the questions, guys, and she has a bonus.
Good job.
Yes.
Who's your favorite spiritual sister, and why is it me?
I could never.
Be original.
As my daughter
I learned from
would say.
Well, I'm original, so I'm not teaching you. I'm not teaching you well enough. If you can't come up with
she remembered all the questions.
As my 6-year-old daughter would say, we don't have favorites. There's enough love for everyone. So, yeah.
She sounds like the daughter of a therapist.
Oh, yeah. You're right. You should have heard her earlier today when I was stressed about something. And she said, Mom, let's just take a breath. It's all going to be okay. She's like, now tell me what's going on. And I was like, I want to take this sourdough baking class, but Aunt Anna and Aunt Sarah were supposed to be doing stuff this weekend. And I don't think they'll want to take the baking class with me. And she was like, Mom, let's take a breath. Have you talked to them about it? And I was like, no, I haven't yet. And she was like, Mom, I know that they're going to be okay with it. They're your friends. They've been your friends for a long time. You just have to be willing to be brave enough to talk to them. And she's like, I know it. And I was like, thanks. And I was really letting her go on this because I was just curious on where she was going to go with this, but it was a pretty good, solid, like, navigating. And I wasn't even that stressed about it. It was kind of like, why is everybody trying to do things on the same weekend? So, but yeah, I was like, wow, you really are the daughter of a therapist. And I see it now.
Aww.
Did you ever watch the show Working Moms?
Yes. Oh, I was obsessed. Yeah, I loved it.
Did you get that far into when the daughter of the psychiatrist was
therapizing? Yes. And then it turned bad.
Doing,
and I was
great job. And turned horribly because she had no boundaries because she's a child.
Yes.
But she was doing great.
Yep. Yeah. She was like, I was like, look at the reframing and that. Yeah. But yeah. So I told her, I was like, you cannot be a therapist. Because she was like, I'll just be a therapist too. And I was like, you can when you're an adult, but you cannot as a child. That's not your job to take that on.
Yeah.
It's not your
you're
job.
doing such a great job with her.
Thank
just
you.
want to, share that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So the astro fact, to make it quick before we get into our discussion. So most politicians in their birth charts have what's called Mercury conjunct Pluto. And that combination of planets in a birth chart implies that they are quite manipulative, which is fitting for politicians.
That makes sense. That's so interesting.
Sounds about right.
Interesting.
So we decided that we were going to talk about mental health stuff. And we kind of picked a few different conditions that we wanted to touch on. I kind of want to start with psychosis. And Gabs, can you share?
Yeah.
Can you share whatever you were going to share to get us started?
So interesting, because I messaged Nichole yesterday, unrelated to this episode that we were recording with Annamarie, but it was in reference to a passing of a astrologer that's on Astro Twitter. Rest in peace, Mystic Lipstick. And we just recently had the eclipses, the solar eclipse in Aries, and she committed suicide after murdering her partner because she entered into a state of psychosis because she was pretty much seeing the eclipses as doomsday. And I was watching a YouTube video of one of the astrologers that I follow, and he did a whole video capturing her passing. And he said something that I thought was really thought-provoking. And he said that if you are in the world of spirituality, but you do not do the inner work, that's when spiritual psychosis can potentially develop. And I sent that to Nichole, and I was like, what are your thoughts?
I never responded.
She didn't respond. No,
I forgot.
Well, we're going to talk about it today, but I am not an expert, as you all know that are listening. This is certainly Nichole and Annamarie's area of expertise. And so I think that's where we're starting today.
So what are your thoughts, Annamarie, on that?
Oh gosh. So yeah, I 100% agree with what the guy said, because there are, I actually, it kind of goes into a little bit of what I talk about with some of my like spiritual friends and like practitioners and stuff. And I think Nichole, you and I, and maybe even Gabby, we've talked about it, but just like this idea of like intuitive energetic ethics and teaching people how to ground their energy, teaching people how to cleanse their energy. Because if you're just jumping into things and you're not grounding and clearing and things like that, you're opening yourself up to a lot of stuff. And so psychosis can energetically, what's happening with psychosis, it's kind of like the major things that I see with it and that I receive around it is it's either your body or your energy, your soul is like splitting itself. Like it's in two different places or it's in multiple different places. And so it's very fragmented. Your body isn't able to fully function. Your mind isn't able to function, with that lack of energy to like do the things. Or like you have a bunch of beams on your energy because your energy has been too open. And so then they're impacting how you are processing things. And if you guys don't mind, I'll like explain a little bit more, but So essentially, what you have to think of is like there's kind of 3 levels to mental health, energetically speaking. There's the physical, the energetic, and the cognitive. The cognitive, which is the mind, the subconscious, is essentially a translator for the body, which is your largest intuitive tool, and your like raw energy. So it's like taking information from the body, turning it into raw energy for your energy to adjust to. It's taking raw energy, turning it into sensations and information that the body can use. When your energy is fragmented like that, or your energy has a bunch of beings on it, it is going to play a role in how your mind is adjusting. And so you can have it where, like, essentially, with psychosis, the simple terms is like you lose your mind. And that's 100% true, because your mind is trying to translate this energy that's not your own, or it's not full, or it's stuck in other places and receiving different information. And it especially happens when we're constantly outside of our bodies, because when we're outside of our bodies, our body needs the same amount of energy to function. So it's going to pull some type of energy in, whether it's yours or something else's. So that's just that's my short little thing about psychosis.
And I liked what that astrologer, whatever that person was.
Mm-hmm.
Who was
Name's
it?
Cameron White. Cameron White. He's so hot.
Oh,
I love that. Yes.
We're super shallow over here. We're always rating people on their hotness.
That's
a problem. My husband's gotten in on it though, because we'll be out somewhere and he'll be like, "There, take a picture for your hot or not over there." So I like that, because I think one of my biggest issues with spiritual work is people not doing the inner work. And
Yes.
yeah, so people not doing the inner work because it's not fun and it's ugly, and even people that want to like bypass therapy, or and it doesn't even have to be therapy. And me having been on both sides, I can say that I think I've gotten more from my own personal work than I did out of years of therapy. I think being on my own,
that's normal.
But I think therapy is still there to support it.
Yeah. Well, and I think the thing is that what people have to remember is, like, if you don't have the capacity to be honest with yourself, or it's too painful, like you find yourself avoiding, it is helpful to have like a therapist to work with, because they're going to keep you accountable. At least, like, once you find a good therapist or whatever, they should. But yeah, no, because the inner work is super important. If you're not doing that, like, it kind of taints the energy work that you're doing. So like I see it all the time where people will they don't have any type of energetic boundaries. So like they'll, there's lots of stuff out there about like how to get your ex back, or like how to like do all these things. And I'm like, oh my gosh, all of the ethical energetic boundaries. And because when you're doing those things, it's going to attract beings, because it's such a lower frequency. And people, if you're not cautious of that, if you're not cautious about the energies that are around you, you're not, you could call a lot of stuff in, and that stuff can be very icky. I did a really intense healing this past year, and it was like, not that it was scary, but it kind of was. Like, it was just one of those things where I was like, oh my gosh, it was the most intense healing I've ever done. And the beings were insane. Like, and I was like, this is where, like, I was like, these are the kinds of beings that cause psychosis and aggressiveness.
Maybe this will be my second comment that I make. I'm like, I told for the listeners out there, I was like, I don't know how much I'm going to contribute to this episode, guys. It's more of a listener, but I think that's also something that's really important to note, is that when you do have mental health issues or struggle with that in any way, entities, beings, lower vibrational frequencies are a thing. And some people are just in denial about it, but I'm like, you can't not see this side of it. Like, it's a fact. Yeah,
absolutely.
Well,
and you give more power to, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish. Go ahead and finish.
I was just going to say, you give more power to it by leaving it in the dark and not addressing it.
Ooh, yeah. That's a really great way of framing that, because there's a lot of people in this work that we do that don't acknowledge that. And I'm like, you guys, you can't. It's just, it comes with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think a lot of them are listeners because they don't like hearing the dark, scary stuff.
Right.
Still salty, sorry, guys. Anyway, but that kind of tying into that, It's the people that are not doing that inner dark work that are becoming maybe more vulnerable to mental health issues, to psychosis, things like that. And and then those are the ones that get like preyed on for things like cults. And then those are the ones that are saying crazy shit. And then those are the ones that are doing crazy shit. And it's giving the rest of us that are trying to have a balance, it's making us look bad. And I've talked about this before, that, what was it? That documentary? Oh gosh, the Mother God, Love is One cult. That was the more recent one. And those people, I don't give a fuck if any of them, they're fucking crazy. Okay. They are nuts. They are still so in it. And I'm like, y'all are, there is something wrong with you.
Twisted.
You're giving, and you're giving people like me that are into like chakras and energy healing, like you're giving me a bad name because you're fucking dumb and you don't want to do the work. and it's dumb. And it makes me so angry because I feel like, and you too, Annamarie, right? We have that balance of, okay, this is like clinical, this is real. And then here's the energy piece. And how are we going to merge them? Because they're two very important things. But I think we have like both feet on the ground,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and the thing that people have to remember is that anything can become an addiction. Anything can help you numb out what you want or what you don't want to feel. And humans have a natural knack for avoiding pain and going towards pleasure. And so, spirituality is great and wonderful and can add so much to your life, but it's not going to be all rainbows and sunshine all the time. Life isn't about that. But if you're using it in that capacity to run away or to only tap into like there are people who are obsessed with trying to get certain results and things like that, or like overly rely on like their tarot cards for everything. And I'm like, okay, what are we not trying? Why are we afraid of making decisions? To me, it comes back to like, I can say, oh, that's an anxiety language behavior. Like, let's talk about how this isn't a symptom of your anxiety. And then let's talk about this root cause of a fear of instability and a fear of a lack of resources. So like, it's to me, everything, all of those kinds of actions can be traced down back to a mental illness or a mental illness symptom, because you're essentially trying to numb it out or you're trying to hyper control. And if you don't do the inner work, your energy is going to be off. And it's good. Like, so people who do manifesting and stuff, and I've personally experienced this, if like I'm not doing the inner work and all this other programming is going on energetically and subconsciously, or my nervous system's out of whack, the thing that I want to manifest isn't going to come through even the way that I dreamed, because you have your energy is not matching with what you're trying to envision or what you're speaking.
Yeah. And I think the work never stops. There's no end to it. Period.
No.
So dumb.
There's always another layer. There's always another layer. But you can still enjoy life and be doing work. And that's what I tell people. I was like, you shouldn't have to be suffering all the time. Like, you can still grow and develop and work through things without being in a state of misery all the time. And that's what where I see therapy helping.
So I was talking about this recently, and I kind of want to know what your thoughts are. And I said something that might have been controversial, but I stand by it.
Ooh, we love.
Yes.
Well, it's not that controversial, but I was thinking that in the spiritual community, maybe people don't want to use the word depression. And instead, we want to fluff it up and call it a dark night of the soul.
Yes.
And the more I think about it, the more I kind of think that it feels pretty spot on. Like, I'm kind of going to stick with that. I
agree.
That a spiritual person is not going to say, I'm depressed, because we're not allowed to be, or, we're not allowed to take medication, whatever. And so, well, I'm not depressed. I'm just going through my dark night. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
100%. People 100% say that. And I think that it kind of goes into that somewhat of the spiritual community where it's like toxic positivity. Like, it's my dark night of the soul. So like, this is going to be like, I should be feeling like, I'm not going to let myself actually feel the things. I'm not going to let myself feel the rock bottom. I'm going to just focus on the fact that this is rock bottom and like see my way out. But like, at the same time, you have to face like what's actually there. And when you're just like, when you're not actually facing that you're depressed, it just impacts how you're like navigating it. It prolong you being there. I think that there's this really like this aversion in general to all things clinical. It like people feel like they either have to be spiritual or like believe in like science and medicine and clinical stuff. And I'm like, they go together so nicely. So like a nice wine and cheese pairing. Like it's so great.
Like charcuterie.
Yeah. I'm like, you don't have to be one or the other. Like they help each other. They help each other out. And I think it's a disservice because I do feel like dark nights of the soul when we don't allow ourselves to see what's going on, like mental health wise, it could cause us to stay there. And that's also when we can maybe turn into psychosis because a lot of times when we're there, we're desperately trying to grasp at anything to get us out of there instead of using tools that are proven to help like lift the bottom or like you said, like medication. Even though I'm intuitive, I do not hate on medication because medication can help us lift the bottom so that treatment can actually be effective. There's a whole energetics like understanding medication when it comes to mental health, and it's very valid. So both are true. You know what I mean? So yeah.
I read a book, or I listened to it a while back by Gabby Bernstein, and I think it was her Happy Days book. And in there, she talked about all the postpartum, or not all the postpartum, but the postpartum that she experienced and how prior to that, she was very anti-medication and how, because of her work and her platform, and she was always, kind of saying, no, it's bad. And then once she was in a position to where she wasn't okay and she needed it, she was like, oh shit, like I've probably done more harm than good by being so anti-medication for so long, and how, much did I alienate people by telling them, that it was bad.
That's bad. Yeah.
And it was really hard for her, to get to the point to say, okay, I need medication. And because of what she does and because of what she said, and, she had to kind of eat her words and go back and say, no, like this is a real thing and this is necessary and I need it. And it's okay. It's okay if people need it. It doesn't, you're not, I don't know, you're not looking for an easy fix, obviously, with medication. Because I think for many people, medication's the last resort. I mean, I don't know how many times I had to talk people into even considering medication. And I'm like, you need it so bad.
Yeah, there are 100% people who do need it, who like, it's very helpful for them. Like for people who are like into like the energetic spiritual side of stuff, and they're like, but they're super, like they're anti-medication. I'm like, medication raises your vibration. And that is why it is effective, because it's raising your vibration enough for the treatment to work, or it's raising your vibration enough for your energy to start to shift so that your body and your energy can make those shifts and realign so that things can start changing. But if, your body's all the way down here and your energy's like all the way, like I was like, it's treatment, talking about it isn't going to help a lot of times, like, or it can help, but very, very, so minimally that you don't feel it. Or like, people with depression, sometimes they have a hard time just getting up and out of bed and making it to treatment. If that's the case, medication is a good choice for you because you're not even able to receive the treatment. So yeah, I 100%, I'll be like, guys, or I'll tell people, I was like, it's going to raise your vibration. I know that we want to like think of everything that's not just spiritual and energetic is bad, but it's 100% not true. And when it comes to energy work, I tell people this all the time, there has to be a physical component. We live in a physical world. We have physical bodies. So yes, you're doing all this energy work. If you don't have physical integration steps, it's not going to stick, or your energy and your body are going to be at totally different vibrations, and you're going to feel real sick, and you're going to have those really bad ascension symptoms and all these other things. So yeah, let's get off my soapbox for a second.
I love that idea though of it like raising your vibration, because it's true. And it's not, I think some people think that if they take medication, what I hear is, well, I've done it before and I was just super numb, or, I didn't feel anything, or, I took it before. And yeah, I remember someone saying I took it before and I couldn't cry. I just couldn't cry about anything. And, there would be something so sad and it didn't make me sad. And so I don't want to do that. Like people want to feel, and I get it, right? We want to feel, we want to feel good. We want to feel bad so we can appreciate the good and all of those things. But I think just that idea of you can raise your vibration or you can, raise your energy, whatever it is. And it doesn't mean that you're going to be just super happy-go-lucky and nothing's going to affect you. And if that's happening, then that's not the medication for you.
Yes.
Right.
I always tell people, I was like, euphoria is not what we're looking for in medication. No. We're not looking for euphoria.
We're not looking for Delulu. We're looking for that kind of like happy medium of I feel better. I feel, better to the point that I can get out of bed. I feel better to the point to where I just have more energy, not manic, but I have the energy to leave my house on the weekends. I have the energy to clean my house. I have the energy to take my kids to the park, right? Whatever it is. Versus I don't want to do anything. Or maybe people that are not eating because they're so depressed, right? So it's like, okay, well, we got to get you eating. Because that's not healthy either.
Yeah. I tell people all the time, and I was actually just writing up a blog about this, but there's a hierarchy of needs that we're taught in school, and that exists on an energetic level. Though when we talk about vibrations, if you struggle with understanding like, oh, my energy's at this frequency or vibration, think of the hierarchy of needs. If your basic human needs are not being met, I don't care how much meditation you do. I don't care how much manifestation stuff you're doing. It's not going to pan, and you're still going to be suffering with symptoms because these basic needs aren't being met. And like with each, think of each level on the pyramid as a different frequency. So like, it's kind of like those different layers, and the symptoms are going to be exhibiting on different layers. I had a reading today who, all of her stuff was subconscious. Like she'd done all of the nervous system work. She'd done all of the physical releasing of trauma. She'd done the verbal processing. So now it was like, it's at the top of the pyramid where it's subconscious work. It's literally just reprogramming how the belief systems in her mind. And so that's something to remember is like, you might not want to go on medication, but if you're not able to get out of bed, you're not showering, you're not eating, or you're like overly eating so much to where you're getting sick, whatever it is that however your symptoms express themselves, then you're at that, especially when it's that physical level, you're at that base level, and the medication is going to help raise it so that you can receive, the treatment, like I said. So yeah.
And then the other piece is, it's not forever. So that's the other part that people get so scared about. Well, I don't want to be on this forever. Well, you're probably not, but and I always like to use the analogy of someone with diabetes, right? So the medication is going to help them while they're figuring out how to change their diet and how to get movement in. And I know plenty of people that have been able to stop their high blood pressure medication or their diabetes medication because they learned all those other things to keep it in check, and then they don't need it anymore. Same thing with a mood stabilizer. Go to therapy. Start an exercise routine, right? We know how important that is, and then you can start decreasing, and eventually you probably don't need it.
Yeah, I think that if you're going into medication and you're not in therapy, or you don't have like a plan of other ways to help lift your mood, that's where the mistakes lie, is where I see it.
That's almost like the equivalent of maybe like spiritual bypassing, right? Well, I'm just going to take this pill and it's going to make me feel better, and I'm not going to do anything else.
Yes,
I'm not going to go to therapy. I'm not going to eat better. I'm not going to try to get enough sleep. I'm not going to do any of that, but I'm going to feel better because of this pill.
Yeah. And that's where you see like people who do need it, or like I've had clients who will just go on it and then they're like, I don't really even think they feel that euphoria a little bit. And they're like, I don't actually think that I need therapy. Like I feel great. But a year later, they're like, oh, my anxiety or my depression is back the way that it was before. And so they either have to continue increasing their medication, or like, they actually have to do some of the work. So instead of trying to just bypass it and like go on, life is normal. They have to like come back. So, and that's why I always tell people, I was like, your anxiety and your depressive symptoms are there telling you that like there's internal work that needs to be done. And it's trying to speak to you. That's why the symptoms have gotten so bad, is because you've been ignoring them.
Yeah.
Even if you don't know that you're ignoring them, which definitely happens.
So those are things that are, maybe more treatable to an extent, right? Psychosis can maybe be treated with an antipsychotic. You can treat depression with the mood stabilizer. This is maybe not agreed upon. Some people have the thought that you cannot treat a personality disorder. I think you have the opposite.
Yes, I do.
Thought where you can treat a personality disorder. So tell us a little bit about the energetics of personality disorders. And then just for people who maybe don't know, can you share a little bit about what a personality disorder is and give a couple of examples of some well-known ones?
Yes. Yeah. So personality disorders are essentially conditions. I think the major ones are cluster B, because cluster C are more anxiety related personality disorders. Sorry, I'm like
C,
yeah. Sorry, I'm like picturing the DSM-5 page in my head. So B is like the well-known ones mostly, and essentially what is happening is these individuals, like their behaviors and their actions are linked like to their personality. So they're saying like, we'll take narcissistic personality disorder is like the big hot topic one, where a person like that individual is known to be overly fixated on themselves and prioritize themselves above all others. They really struggle with like empathy towards others. They also have a tendency to like have extreme reactions to their own like what they view as like failures or mistakes that they've made. And a lot of people, the reason that we are so familiar with personality disorders is because when we experience people with personality disorders, it can get very uncomfy and very not great. And so a lot of people in the industry will not treat personality disorders. When I first started in therapy, they give all the newbie therapists people all the personality disorders because nobody wants to work with them.
Oh,
it is overwhelming. And the reason that it's not seen as treatable is because there's not a medication you can take to change your personality. It's not about mood stabilization, because it's really about how they are psychologically processing and responding to the world around them, just on a base level. But I completely disagree. Like, I'm like, yeah, they're 100% treatable, especially once I kind of understood them on an energetic level. But even before that, if individuals can learn how to code and how to talk to computers, we can teach individuals how to react better in the world, even if they have, not so great, like a narcissist is going to be completely fixated on themselves most of the time, but we can still teach them how to respond better and how to respond to their own internal, like, overwhelming emotions. But on an energetic level, and this is really what solidified my belief in that personality disorders are 100% treatable, is that what is happening is, so you have your essence, everyone's born with their own unique essence, your soul, that energy. Over time, like, you experience life and different things can happen. So like, maybe you are in an environment that doesn't make you feel safe to be yourself. That's where anxiety steps in. Maybe, you've experienced something where you felt physically threatened, or your, human self now views a desire, an emotion, or whatever as a threat to you. That's where we have depression, because they're butting heads. Personality disorders are like, so anxiety and depression, survival strategies. That's what they are. They're just survival strategies. Personality disorders are essentially your essence, your soul self, merging and kind of changing to intertwine with your survival strategy or your wound. So depending on the specific cluster is going to dictate whether it's combining with your wound or whether it's combining with your survival strategy. And so what happens there is that's why it like merges as part of your personality, because you are becoming part of that. And that usually happens when individuals are in situations where they continue to feel a lack of safety emotionally, physically, and energetically. So they have to become this survival strategy. They have to become this wound in order to just exist on a physical plane. And the soul kind of not reroutes, but is like, okay, I can't actually like exist here without changing. So like, things will start to shift. And one of the big things, like, so I'll use narcissism as an example again. Narcissism usually occurs, like the foundations for it usually occurs when the person is between the ages of like 5 and like 8 or 9, when we're in that developmental stage of where the ego rules and everything is about us. Literally, like, oh my gosh, that plane ran out of gas and is landed or is like is 2 hours delayed. A child is thinking that somehow that it's all about them. Like it doesn't matter that it's totally unrelated. It's somehow all about them. That is a normal developmental stage for a child. However, when you experience severe developmental trauma, these people are getting stuck in that developmental stage, and they have learned that, oh, if I continue to fixate on myself, that is the only way that I can survive. So it's really stalls the like growth and expansion. And so that's when the soul is like really merging with those traumas. Even so, borderline personality disorder is another example. But when you boil that down, the behaviors and the kind of like so borderline personality disorder is like kind of attention seeking. They have a history of like unstable relationships. They don't trust. They hyperfixate on the people around them, and they have these extreme pendulum swinging emotional reactions. Part of that is they have to energetically have a total lack of boundaries. How they've learned to survive is like taking on other people's energies and trying to become what the other people want. So hyperfixating on people, idolizing people. And then when they start to feel that, almost not betrayal, but just like abandonment, that abandonment
in the relationship.
Yes. Yeah. Then they react, like they go into complete like fight or flight mode. But part of that is like, they don't know how to truly connect. There usually isn't, they learned very early that connecting is very unsafe. So you have to like jet. And some of the attention seeking behaviors are really them wanting to connect deeply and wanting to be seen and understood. But those individuals are so disconnected from themselves that they lose sight of like any type of identity. So they're literally jumping from relationship to relationship to relationship, and then can oftentimes find themselves stuck in the fantasies about the relationship as opposed to reality. And that's them leaving their bodies because of the trauma.
So those are more like, so that would be like a cluster B, right?
Yes, yes.
So like borderline is going to be under cluster B. Narcissistic personality, histrionic, I think, is also under cluster B.
Yes, histrionic, okay. Yeah, and sociopath. Then the sociopathic
those
and psychopathic
are the A's, right?
Oh, yes, you're right.
So my question was going to be, so then we have cluster A guys. So cluster A is going to be more of like your antisocial, sociopath, like serial killer type personality profile. B, the way they taught it in grad school was my professor said those are the bitchy ones. So those are the ones you kind of want to stay away from. Yes. And I 100% agree. Anytime one of those stepped in my office, like someone with a cluster B, I was like, nope, not doing this. and then cluster C is going to be your like OCD. What else is in C? The more the anxiety ones?
Yeah, it's the anxiety rooted ones. I just know that OCD is in there. I forget the other ones because they're not as
claustrophobia?
Commonly, yes. Claustrophobia. No, well, I don't know. Actually, I have my DSM-5 right. Give me one second.
Okay. So while you look up that, so my question is for you. So, you're saying, okay, we can treat it. We can't treat it with medication, but you're saying like with the Bs, with the narcissism, with the borderlines, we can treat it. Do you feel that way about the A's, the ones that are going to be your psychopaths, your sociopaths, your serial killers? Like, do you think that those are treatable? Or because I'm going to say like, if Richard Ramirez would have gone to a therapist, like, I don't think they would have fixed him. If Ted Bundy would have gone to a therapist, I don't think they could have fixed him.
Those are the ones that came to mind, Nichole. I was like, what about these serial killers?
I think I also think it comes down to, is it contracted or non-contracted? Contracted conditions, a lot harder to treat because it's in their contract. And their soul has tied a crap ton of lessons with themselves and with the other people around them. So I think it would take, it's not, I never like to say anything's impossible,
right?
But like, it's not likely. If it's non-contracted, yes, but you're not just traditional therapy. So like with those kinds of situations, I would say they need a social worker in addition to a therapist, because a lot of times this is where the systems theory really comes in, is those individuals who it's non-contracted. And granted, I haven't gone into the energy of any of the serial killers.
Oh, can you?
I probably could. I don't know how, like, I mean, I probably could. But if it's non-contracted, then you'll need other support systems. So that's the systems theory, is essentially like how the systems around us interact with us. And so with that, there's a lot of times systems that have failed those individuals. And so if certain things would have been in place, it would have allowed for treatment to actually settle. But again, if we look at that, hierarchy of needs, if their basic needs aren't getting met, like they're not getting the emotional support that they need at home, they don't come from like a stable home environment or maybe like they experienced abuse themselves, it doesn't matter about what they talk about in therapy. It doesn't matter. Like if we're like, okay, let's respond. Like, I know that you find pleasure in killing people, but let's talk about like maybe a better way to respond to the anger that you felt because you were terribly abused as a kid. So, and that's just like a random ass example, but I think that there has to be other things in place besides just talk therapy. And I mean, I feel that way with people in general, but like really, especially with those severe cases, also they need a shaman or like some type of energy healer. So social worker, therapist, shaman, that's what they would need.
To remove your demons.
Did you ever see that show with Steve Carell where he was the therapist? It was only for one season and he got kidnapped by someone. Okay, I need to find the name and I'm going to text it to you.
Okay.
Oh gosh, hold on. Let me look it up because maybe people are going to want to see it.
Side note, while you're doing that, Nichole, when you were talking about the serial killers, Ted Bundy, I remember when we started this podcast and I was talking to a girlfriend that listens. Shout out, she's going to listen to this episode because she's also in the work. She's a school therapist.
Yay.
And she she was telling me, I'll tell you off. I don't want to say her name. But she was saying to me that on TikTok, there's this woman that she's a medium. She connects with serial killers, like a serial killer, and she's connected with Ted Bundy, and he came through. And I was like, can you please send me the page? I would love to scope them out. And,
that's so interesting.
Maybe bring them on. But yeah, it's interesting to, I've never done that, but I would imagine that those spirits would come through.
Yeah, it would be interesting. I just did a podcast with a woman who, she's like a trauma consultant. Like she did years of working for CYS, but it was in a different state. So I think the initials were slightly different. And essentially worked with like youths that were on track to be like serial killers, like on track to like definitely harm people.
Wow.
And she uses human design, and she used human design to help them. And like her kids turned it all the way around. Like they stopped hurting people.
Wow.
They stopped. And so we were talking and I was like, it just shows that like, it definitely is possible, but we have to understand people on a soul level, not just what you're doing is bad. So just stop doing that. You know what I mean? So I thought that was interesting.
I've always thought about that. Thank you for saying that. And I'll obviously pass it back to Nick, but I was thinking about, I'm like, how much of this is contracted? Like, cause it has to be like it has to be like on a soul level too. And that's the part where I'm just like, oh, what is this all about?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's super interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The show was called The Patient. It was one season. It was so good.
I'll have to watch it because I love Shrinking. I think it's called. It's more funny. Like it's more comedy. But it's on Apple TV and it has, I don't know,
this
actors or
funny.
actresses' name. Oh, okay. Well, I'll just watch it anyway.
But it was good.
I'll watch it anyway.
It was really good. So what was my other thought that I had as you were talking about that? Okay, so cluster A, maybe like we don't know. And then cluster B is going to be those more difficult, like the borderline, histrionic, narcissist.
Yes.
And then what's C?
C is so there's avoidant personality disorder and dependent and then obsessive compulsive. So these are 100% treatable. These are like your energy is merging with your survival strategy. Honestly, these aren't the ones that usually scare people. These are the ones that like everyone kind of feels like they have a little bit of, because, it's anxiousness. It boils down to anxiety. But in cluster A, it also has, so cluster A is paranoid personality disorder, schizoid personality disorder, schizotypical personality disorder. That's it. And then cluster B is antisocial, borderline, histrionic, and narcissistic. And I think antisocial is the one where we get sociopaths and sociopaths and
Okay,
psychopaths.
so that's in B, not A.
Yeah.
You guys, I don't know my DSM. I don't even want to be a therapist. I don't want to be
What
a
does
therapist anymore.
DSM
So I don't
stand
fucking.
for?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
What does DSM stand for?
Diagnostic and Statistic Manual.
Yes,
Right?
thank you. I didn't know the full. I function on like my specific little area of the DSM-5, but the DSM-5 is so thick and there's just so much stuff, and I'm
It's
like
massive. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that mental health is really getting the attention that it deserves.
It 100% does. And like, I mean, I think it's even going to grow, because what I was understanding, like when I did kind of like sat with the collective energy of this year, our mental health is going to be really merging with our physical health. So like our health is becoming one. So when we have things going on that we're not processing mental health wise, when we have emotional traumas, we have stuck emotions, we have things that our energy is holding on to, our body's dysregulated, it is going to a lot faster manifest as a physical illness. And so we're going to see a lot more of physical illnesses that actually are rooted back into emotional stuff and traumas and things like that. They already have been moving that way, but it's just we're going to see it more. And that's where like energy is going to be a really important part, because it's going to allow us to get to the root issue without throwing, I always use the phrase throwing shit against a wall, because sometimes that is literally what it feels like when it comes to like figuring stuff out with our health. And I'm like, yeah, I hate that.
Sounds like it's going to be just a more like well-rounded, holistic approach, like taking everything into consideration, which is good.
Yes.
So what would you say people can do, should do, would benefit from if they're going to focus on their mental health this month? What would be some things, like some tips for somebody, whether they're struggling already with their mental health, or whether they're not, things are okay and they're good? Like what would be some tips for the month?
Yeah. So if you are, whether you're intuitive or not, this is an exercise that you can kind of do. But when you start to feel anxious, or whatever the emotion is that you're struggling with, or whatever the sensation or symptom, instead of like trying to avoid it, like we all frequently do, like, okay, I'm going to go think about something else. I'm going to do something else. I'm going to whatever. I want you to lean into it. And I know that sounds pretty scary and super uncomfortable, but I want you to lean into it. Where is it at in your body? And closing your eyes for even just like a minute or two, taking a deep breath. What does it have to say to you? And just start having that open dialogue with your body and your energy, because that's literally what you're doing by doing that exercise. You will get so much more information than you think is possible. There is so much information that you already have that like you don't even really like need to be with a therapist to just open the doors for that. I always recommend journaling if you're going to be doing this, especially if you're somebody who's like overwhelmed, just because journaling allows us to ground in those emotions instead of letting them run rampant through our bodies. So
is she awake?
She is.
She's like, can you keep it down? I have school tomorrow.
She is.
It's so funny.
Okay.
So I just wanted to add to that too. I love how you said if you're starting to feel something, like really lean into it and ask yourself what it is. And whatever comes to you first, whether it makes sense or not, go with that. Trust it and just see where it takes you, because oftentimes we already have the answers. We just might not understand it in that moment, but our mind, our subconscious mind, is always going to give us the information. And usually the first answer is the one to go with. And so if it doesn't make sense, that's okay. It doesn't need to make sense in that moment. It might make sense in an hour. It might make sense in a week.
Yeah. And I tell people this all the time. I was like, one of the biggest mistakes that we make is trying to intellectualize those things. So like trying to make it make sense. It doesn't have to. Our ego can keep us stuck and make therapy ineffective, because ultimately when you're talking and stuff, your ego is a lot of times still in control. So it'll keep you dancing around the root issue. But if you're journaling and you're leaning into that feeling and you're focusing on like, okay, what's coming up, even if it makes zero sense, you're going to get to the root issue a lot faster.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to add anything, Gabs?
No, I really enjoyed listening to you guys. It was Yeah, I learned a lot. I had no idea about what the DSMB was or the different categories.
DSMB?
DSM-5.
DSM-5? DSM-5? Shit, that. See? I'm not an expert, guys. I know I'm not. Yeah, and then I'm just so fascinated about like the contracts aspect of it too. Like, but also I didn't know that the healer, the therapist, using the human design approach to turn her kids around, that's really cool.
Yeah, to see like what they need. And it was super, super cool. Like I was like, this is awesome, because essentially like I'm doing like a version of that with, connecting to the soul and the energy and seeing what the soul needs. And that's really the best thing that you can do for somebody when it comes to their mental health, is see what their soul needs. What is their soul saying? They're going to be able to direct you in the right direction. So
and you have the your intuitive mental health program, which Nichole just took, which I'm sure Nichole can speak to, where people can join and do the work, as we say.
Nichole was part of the beta class, so I'm so grateful for them, because teaching for the first time was very stressful and very like learning, lots of learning.
You go through the up level when you hold group containers, so you're in it too,
Yeah, that's true. That is very true.
Are you going to do another round?
I am. I'm going to open the doors April 18th. So actually this week I'm going to open the doors, but we won't start until May.
When are you going to close the doors?
I think May 5th is when I'll close them.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
So this will come out and you guys will have a few days to decide if you want to do it. Tell the people a little bit about what the program is, so that way they know if it's a good fit.
Yes. So the Intuitive Mental Health certification program is essentially, I'm teaching you where psychology and energy work are bridging, and how to use your intuitive strategies, practices to help understand, heal, and treat different mental illnesses. So we go through different mental illnesses, talk about the energetics of what's actually going on, talk about different strategies that can be very, very helpful. And then we break down like what specific healings are going to be great for, the different illnesses or symptoms you're seeing, and also different healing strategies. The first part of it, we really break down like, okay, here's like the sciencey bit, here's the psychology and things like that. And then we get into building those intuitive skills. So then at the end of it, like, you'll be able to do a mental health clarity reading and a healing. It's really helpful.
Yeah. I really loved, I felt like I learned a lot, even though I know a lot about mental health, but I loved seeing it from a different angle.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really good.
Yeah.
Really
So
informative.
I'm hoping that it helps give a little bit of background, and like helps like people like who are intuitives, who don't come from like a background of psychology and stuff. I hope it helps them to be able to feel like, okay, I can help my clients through these things a little easier. And
where can people find you?
Instagram, and my handle is at Annamarie Green. So I'm wearing a pink suit. Can't miss it.
And you can DM me and
ask questions. Yeah.
Put everything in the show notes. Okay, Annamarie, before we let you go, can you do a card pull for everybody?
I would love to.
Also, thank you for the work that you do. It is much needed and necessary.
Thank you.
This area of work is only going to grow in the few years to come.
Thank you. I'm excited. Okay. I'm terrible at shuffling cards. It's actually a really embarrassing skill. Like when people are like, "Can you shuffle cards?" I'm like, "Definitely not." Please don't. It's embarrassing.
Which deck are you using?
I'm using. So it is the Herbal Astrology Oracle. It is my favorite deck. I don't pull cards often because sometimes I get mad at my cards. I'm like, I don't need to hear that right now. I came to you for support. Okay. But I do love them. I love this deck so much. Ooh, okay. I pulled the card upside down. Love that.
Oh.
So this is what I pulled. This is it upside down. This is it right side up. It is psilocybin, which is commune.
Fun.
Okay. So it's card number 49, and it says commune. Whenever I get this card, it always is a reminder of like finding community, surrounding yourself with people that support the vision that you have for yourself or that make space for you as is. So, when it comes to mental health, it is really, really important to find people who accept you, symptoms or not. Like, you know what I mean? So as just a good place to start feeling safe. This card is also very magical because it just kind of speaks on like the magic that is available when you are in community, and being able to see different perspectives and celebrate together. But let me look at the little book. I love these books. That is my favorite part about cards is like the books, and especially since I pulled it upside down. Okay, so we pulled it reversed. So this symbolizes disconnection, lacking community, a fear of merging with others, a lack of interest in connection, soul loss, or pain from the past, which I think is very suiting for the mental health stuff. So those of you listening, maybe look at finding a more supportive community and, look at, are you losing yourself because you're so wrapped up in pain of the past,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you going to add something, Gab?
I was just thinking because people take psilocybin to improve their neural pathways. And I was like, that is so on point.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
Hey,
we're not telling you to do drugs for the month of May, but it's going to improve your mental health and make those new neural connections, then, maybe do some psilocybin.
Yeah. Hopefully next time I'm taking a certification course in psychological like treatment with psilocybin. So hopefully next time I'll be able to.
Ooh, let me know. I've been interested in doing something like that, but I don't really want to be a therapist. I'm kind of like, do I? But I don't want to learn about it. So
yeah, absolutely. I understand. Yeah,
well,
absolutely.
Thank you, Annamarie, our favorite intuitive therapist.
Thank
People
you.
go find her and get all the knowledge. She's always dropping some kind of good knowledge on her page. So definitely go follow her if you haven't already.
Thank you.
And take care of your mental health in the month of May, please.
Yes. Prioritize it, guys. It touches every part of your life.
Yeah. All right. See you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.